So our office space was very much banks of desk. It was about numbers in the building, and we had huge demands for our building space, and that was across all our buildings. Head office obviously had 2,300 people on site 5 days a week. There had been areas like IT that had started to work from home more, but it was very much set days, not a cultural change across. We had collab areas, but we were definitely on a journey with that. And that journey reflected the journey our business was on. And we were starting to look at people wanting to get up from their desks and come together. And the terminology for that was spins. And they'd look at how the business had gone through the night, because our peak trading was between 8 and 10 o'clock at night, which is obviously when the majority of our workforce is not on site. So they'd be picking that up the next day and would need those areas. But the building was very much set up as chicken runs of desks, so it didn't naturally lend itself to that. And the way the desks were constructed, they couldn't be broken down. So they were in runs of 8s and 10s. And it wasn't just a case of removing a couple to create the space we needed. So we were definitely on that journey, as we were the tech journey, and it was slow. And it was about talking to the teams and coming back and feeding it back. And that was slow. So definitely the layout and the tech was already a highlighted area for us. Nobody was prepared, let alone ourselves. Like everybody else, we were watching how it was going. And simple things like increasing cleaning, we were definitely doing that. But prepared for what was to come, because like everyone else, the discussions were, right, we're going to shut the buildings for 3 weeks. And that's what we did. There was no preparation for that because there was no time scale for that. So the preparation became the work in progress. So prep wise, nobody had time for that. There was no one doing it out there. We'd started to see it in the public areas and our shopping centres and places like that. But for the workplaces, no, like everyone else, we thought, right, we need to go into lockdown for 3 weeks, and that's what we've got to do to keep everyone safe. And we all, like the country, believed in 3 weeks' time we'd be back, and we weren't. The biggest for us in facilities, and this will sound slightly bizarre, the demand on my time was buying masks, it was buying sanitizers, it was buying gloves, signage. That became my life, and I cannot emphasize the hours that took, because like everyone else, we wanted what was going to keep our people safe, but so did everybody else. So sanitizer, toilet roll, masks, gloves were gold, and you had to avoid getting inferior product, and you had to get product that was going to deliver what we needed it to do. And we had to prepare our buildings for the workforce coming back, because lockdown 1, 2, or 3, there were in-betweens where people needed to come back, and the biggest factor was from driving in, they needed to see we had this. We had it covered, and it instilled belief as they drove in. And it was a case of sourcing all of that, designing it, getting it made, getting it delivered, and putting it up without a workforce. You know, in facilities, we have a huge team that does that, but they weren't there. Nobody was there. Our building was dark as I walked through it. The lights came on. It was so strange. I think what businesses found is when we worked from home, you worked very hard, but you worked in silo. And what became quite clear for us in facilities, and not that we hadn't worked before with across departments, what was crucial was facilities, HR and IT were the people that were going to deliver the workspace for lockdown, for during COVID, and certainly for the future. And that won't go back to how it was before, which were silos working alongside each other. Now it's that we very much as a three will deliver the workplaces that people need in the future. And the very group were definitely on that journey, but COVID allowed us to move 5-10 years where our contact centre people could never have worked from home for many reasons, but the one we could solve straight away was the tech. And our tech department, our IT department, worked day and night to move our technology and our platform to a place where everybody could work from home. But we had to get them that kit because they couldn't come in. So facilities came into that, and IT and HR. We had to make sure they were safe environments they were working from, suitable environments, because like us, everybody at home didn't have a home office, didn't have a space. So facilities became crucial for that as well. How do we get a good place to work from home? I am not one for going back. What I feel is I've never seen the very group in a better light than when we went into lockdown. And we don't have hindsight. What would we do better? What would we do differently? What we did, the very group, not facilities, was truly amazing. The investment that was put in, and there was no big, long decision-making process. Previously, big things that we needed to do and large spends. What we needed was given to us to do the job. So what would we do differently? I think probably like any company, maybe we'd have moved our business on. But it doesn't matter, because what we did in 3-4 weeks was tremendous. So what would we do differently? Well, you know, not have COVID, but that wasn't within our control. It's more for me, and the way I see our company is we did what we needed to do when we needed to do it. And that speaks volumes, because the collaboration led to the innovation, which allowed the business to keep functioning and our people to stay safe. And that is something to be so proud of. Our people were safe, but they were still working, and we as a business were still progressing. Yes, hugely. other than the actual lockdowns where you weren't allowed to come out of your house, our buildings were always available for the colleagues to use, because out of, you mustn't leave the house, we straight away knew we needed to do a hybrid model. Some people don't want to work from home. They want to come into the office. So that was always available for them, hence the huge amount of work that went into the buildings when we were allowed to do so. And will our buildings change? They already have. So we took the time and we had the space to allow our colleagues to come in, but we could also close buildings to renovate them, and that's exactly what we did. So when most companies were like, right, nothing's happening, as our partners in our renovation work said, right, you suddenly want all our joiners and all our builders and all our designers when everybody else doesn't. And that was what we did. We said, we will take this opportunity, because never again will one of our buildings be empty and in darkness, to enable us to knock it down from inside and rebuild it. So we did. We saw the opportunity, and COVID, as sad as it was, gave some companies, huge opportunities to change and build their future workspace. We couldn't build for COVID, because COVID will be with us forever, and it will certainly be at the forefront of our minds, probably for another year. But we can't build for that, and that would be wrong to do. So we wanted to build with what we knew and the lessons we'd learned through COVID, which were, do you know what? We can do this. And we don't have to be in the office space. And as you know, in the retail industry, we have Black Friday. And Black Friday previously would be lots of people in the office, day and night. And we'd be heating the building and lighting the building through the night and feeding them through the night and looking after their welfare. But we had to deliver it virtually this year. And that meant people working in the office if they wanted to, from home, but other spaces. And what we see going forward, and I know Cloudbooking are certainly, already on this, is people will want to work in other spaces. So they may not want to or need to come into the workplace, but they also don't want to sit in their lounge. COVID brought sudden office areas, whereas, throw the family out the lounge while you're having a call, or, and we all saw that one on the news with that gentleman and his wife coming in and dragging the kiddies back out. And that reflects society, I feel. But going forward, we had to build space. Going forward, we had to build space, and we needed to build a hybrid model, because collaboration comes through tech, and we want to do both of that. So our areas, we have less desks. We don't have chicken runs of desks anymore. We have collaboration space, meeting spaces, smart spaces. Our buildings need to be smarter buildings, so they can flex to the changes. We are traveling less as a business in retail. We were all over the world, and yes, that will have to come back when it's safe to do so. But what we've learned is we can deliver without traveling less. So if you're not traveling less, what do you need to do? What spaces do you need to work with? And we've built that. So we took away the chicken runs. We had 86 meeting rooms. We haven't got 86 meeting rooms now. We've got spaces, collaboration spaces. We had to understand how they wanted to work and how they needed to be creative, because there are lots of different roles in our buildings. We have traditional roles, finance, legal, but we have people that are designing and selling and buying from all over the world. And we had to do that. We popped in an engagement survey in whilst we were all from home, and the feedback was, we want a hybrid model. And what we pulled from that is, you can be productive at home, but come into the office to collaborate. Those moments of coming together are gold, and those must continue. And the space that we've created allows for that. There is just as much breakout space as desk space. And we've rebuilt our coffee come together areas. We had kitchens, beautiful in every corner of the building, but behind a high wall because they were built 15 years ago. Now they're open. They've got islands in them where you can chat round the cold and hot and cold tap, round the fridges when you're getting your lunch out, as well as in our coffee shops and our juice bar and our restaurants. And they've all got screens, so you'll be safe for a long time coming. But when those screens come down, we have the spaces for that. And breakout areas, pool tables, table tennis areas, because well-being is so important. And we've addressed the well-being in the office space, but we had to address it in the virtual space. So, we now have on our intranet, which is available to all the Very group, we have gyms on site, and people couldn't get in to, go to their gyms, let alone our gyms. So we worked with Nuffield, who look after our gyms for us, and created virtual classes. So people could carry on with that physical well-being as well as the mental well-being. We have free classes on yoga and those sort of areas, and obviously financial and emotional. We have the parents at the Very group, women at the Very group, LGBT plus. All of those groups are now virtual, so people can go on to them. So there isn't that, well, if I'm not in the workplace, if I'm not in the physical office, they're still looking after us. There's still places I can go. There's still things that I can read and engage. Listening to the people pre-COVID, the business was already changing. And if you take one learning from this pandemic, is our environments and our requirements will continue to change. So you have to build an office that is flexible for that, and quickly flexible. People use the term flexible, but it isn't flexible if it's going to take you months to do it. The way we've structured our workspace and buildings is it's quick and easy. And the teams can do a lot of it themselves. The way we built it is spaces are so versatile that they can be used for many different things. So we'll address many different teams' requirements, but facilities input can be quick to change it for how they need it. Because the need can change overnight. What's happened to us overnight, not in 2 months, 3 months, a year's time, but it is also about that constant communication. And the big thing about working more with IT, and that must continue, as well as HR feeding in, is we'll be aware of those demands before they need to be put in place. And the discussions are had prior to that, so that you don't deliver something you think they want. The flexible space is what they want. I think that's quite a negative connotation from the media, and creates headlines.
Yeah.
We're not even worried about that, because what we communicate to our guys is This is a hybrid model. It isn't work or home or another space. It's all of it. And it's what you need to do. And that's an individual when you need to do it. And I'm sure we've all seen in interviews with people in the media is dads have enjoyed taking their children to school. They haven't done that for years because they've fallen into roles and routines. And the great thing is what we've promoted right the way through this is our workplace is open. When the government have allowed us to be, we have been. We've said we're here. It's up to you what you do. You've got to trust your people to do what they need to do when they need to do it. And our buildings are open 24/7. So it isn't even between 9 to 5 you can do what you want to do. Our buildings are open all the time. And the hybrid model allows for that. And going forward, it won't even be, do you want to just work in the workplace or home? It will be other places. And that's the future. So I don't even recognise that structure that, yeah, and I know what you mean, the media put it out there, because from day one we said, it isn't that or that. This is a hybrid model, and any workplace going forward will get the best out of their people, because whether home or work or other, creativity comes when you come together. Yeah, because they're choosing and giving the person the power to choose where they work best. And it isn't even just about the output and the productivity. If the person is happier and feels safe, and when we come out of the pandemic, we can start using the word safe. Again, the pandemic has businesses that have suffered terribly. What we put in place, what we achieved, and what we gave to all our colleagues showed we were busier than ever. We delivered to our customers, because ultimately our workforce being able to do what it needs to do, where it needs to do, worked, because we delivered to our customer, and our customer is at the core of everything we do. Pre-COVID, IT worked on IT systems, and we would see them roll out like all the other departments. And facilities would go off and build, and that speaks volume, because that's how we met Cloudbooking. We would go off and say, right, we need to do this. We need a room booking tool. We looked at, desk booking, and we would go off and research that ourselves in silo. And what we did notice was, IT have built their own IT service desk. Facilities, we've gone away and built our own service desk, and they are not the same. But wouldn't think to come together and say, well, what do you know? What have you found out? Would that work for us, or vice versa? It didn't happen. Each department went out and found what it needed to do its job, when actually the innovation behind most things is tech. But we didn't seek IT to help us with that tech. We went out into the world and spoke to the specialists in those fields, and did what we did, went through a procurement process, because of course cost comes into it. And we would go off and do that separately. What happened in the pandemic, on a basic level, we had to get IT, screens, chairs, desks out to all these people's home addresses who were all over the country. And we had to come together to do that. And then we went, hold on a minute. We're looking at how we will manage our buildings going forward. Do we want to reserve space? Do we want to book space? What do we need to do? And IT said, well, we're also looking at that. So what we found is we were tootling off ourselves to do the same thing. And that needed to stop, because both wanted to deliver the same thing, but would deliver it very differently, would look at things very differently, would go to very different companies, when actually together we could deliver something far more reaching. What HR bring is, don't wait till the end to learn that doesn't work. Let's use our learnings from our engagement surveys and the discussions, and what they know is how people are feeling, because they'll tell them how they're feeling. So it's not how we in facilities and IT think they're feeling, it's what we know they're feeling. And so definitely the way forward now is everything to do with the workplace is the three of us, like it was when we were, we've moved to having test centres on site now. So yes, we've got the cameras at the front door testing temperatures. They were put in straight away. We've put screens up anywhere anyone sits and eats. But also, by combining with the tech bar, we've got to get people in. That starts from the minute you're driving in. Where do I park? Can I park? Is there a space? Coming into the building, where's Vanessa? Where's Sue? I want to work with them today. How do I find them? Is it safe? Is the building, can accommodate me? Am I coming in on a Monday when 1,000 people are coming in, when I could come in on a Tuesday? So going forward, we are working together, and that won't stop when the pandemic goes. What we've learned is we can deliver better combining us all. Facilities for me is so far reaching. The diversity of the role every day is different. But what I feel for the future is it's very much more at the forefront of businesses now. Previously, a lot of people fell into facilities. It's not something they thought about at school or college and progressed their education for that. They came across it in the workplace or fell into it. Or certainly for myself in the early days, it was actually a bolt on to the job I was doing. And I think that's gone. But what I think going forward is it's a career now. It's extremely diverse. It's high impact. You can make a difference. And the fact that we will be building these new spaces, and when I say building, I don't mean buildings, building the new ways of working, facilities will be at the forefront of that. And by it now being part of HR and IT, there are huge changes coming for that. The role is such high energy, it's different every day, and the impact you can make is physical. You can see it. And people, that a huge part of my role in the past year has been people ringing or emailing me and wanting reassurance and feeling better after that. And that is something so measurable and rewarding, and that will continue. It's a journey, I think. When I started, there was a facilities director at the board table, and there are not now. And whether that comes into play, I don't know if we will. But right now, I would say we're appropriately heard. So it's not something I would say that necessarily was needed, but time will tell on that. The pathway and what I was most astounded about was the CEO had conversations with me, the facilities manager, let alone the wider facilities team. And he knew what we were doing and when. And if we asked for something, we got it because we were asking, because it's what was needed. And we were trusted. We weren't even questioned. But, you know, we'll see what the future brings if there's someone at the board table.